What's going on, you rascals? Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking out the channel. Hope you're doing fantastic out there. Going into a Friday. Heat back in action against the Raptors tonight. I won't be boots on the ground. Sunday I will be, but not for Friday night. I did see, for those who were boots on the ground yesterday, I was seeing some of the local reporters from Channel 6 and PLG and Channel 7. Tua Tagovailoa's Tua Luau looked like a badass event. I think I want to try and make it out to that next year. That looks like one of the more fun events. If you're a Dolphin fan, you can hobnob with Mike McDaniel and Tua and Uncle Dan. That looks like a really, really fun event. Plus, Tua sings. Voice of an angel, dude. But the most interesting thing that came out of this was Tua's media session. He had talked about a lot of the charity that he's doing, obviously, but we're greedy pigs. You know, we want to know that. Give us the news, Tua. What do you got for the news, dude? And he had, a couple of nuggets. First off, he's not going to bail on OTAs. He told, when asked about the extension, he said that he's letting his agent handle the deal, as he told reporters in Hawaii a week ago. But he did say exciting times ahead, so keep an eye on that. The interesting thing here is says he's going to go to OTA, show up, and be the best teammate that he can be. And so it was it would be very, very interesting if he would have held out, but I cannot imagine a world where Tua would do that to Mike McDaniel. I think that he is, first of all, got a great relationship with the head coach. The head coach showing up to his charity event. That means a lot to him, right? Like, he did that, like, he's done that, but, like, I think it does mean a lot to him that Mike McDaniel supports these efforts. And, it was cool to hear Tua talk about a little bit about what Miami has meant to him, because, I don't recall him ever saying things like he said yesterday, where he was talking about, Miami is his home. His kids were here, his wife, him got married here, and they're raising a family here, and that he it's an honor for him to have the Dolphins choose him and draft him to be their quarterback. And that's why, man, like, I find it such a hard thing for people who are ready to cast him off and throw him aside and all this. And I know it's not the majority of Dolphins fans. It's just the ingrate bastards who want changes for everything. I'm not saying he's perfect. I get that he has flaws and things that he has to improve upon. But there's two things. One, the guy has shown he's very mentally tough. For anybody who doesn't think the guy is mentally tough, to come back from broken hip, concussion issues, to throw yourself into a martial art to avoid these types of issues. Like, do you know how crazy that is? You're a professional athlete, and you're like, man, I got to stop falling the wrong way. Let me go, do some jiu-jitsu and try and figure this thing out. I just thought it was an unbelievably cool thing, and I think it shows you that the guy has always put in the work. We've seen summers where he's gotten jacked. We've seen this past summer where he learns how to fall. And now this summer, it seems and appears that Tua has – everybody's noticed, we talked about this in the last video, that he looks slimmer. It's very noticeable that he looks slimmer. And that apparently the Dolphins had asked him, according to Barry Jackson, that they had asked him to put on 15 pounds last off season to improve injury, but he's definitely less mobile. Now, I do think this is a little bit of an overrated element. I think that Tua's never been a guy I've looked upon as elusive, but extending plays, like, he's always been a guy that tries to extend plays. If anything, that's been one of the things that has gotten him injured. So I'm still curious on where this is going to lie with, Tua is now leaner, meaner, more mobile. I do think we gotta, like, do you want him to live to fight another day, or do you want him to extend plays and make things crazy? I think there'll be elements of that, but I'm very curious to see where this all shakes out. But the thing is, whatever the task is that you want him to do, he does it. I mean, he definitely throws himself into these types of things, whether it be, bulking up, whether it be learning new skills, whether it be protecting himself, any of that stuff. He really, really works his ass off at trying to get those things better. The other thing is, when I hear him talk about the off season and, getting better and all this type of stuff, I like to see that development in players, right? Yeah, if I could equate this to basketball a little bit, like, yeah, maybe there are better guys in the league than your guys, but some of your guys that you root for are pretty damn good, right? So, like, if anybody Heat fan out there that's like, oh, the Heat should go get Paul George this offseason instead of Jimmy Butler. Like, really? Like, let's just say, okay, you turn back the clock a year on something. Like, you really want to give up on Jimmy Butler, who's done all of that stuff for you? Like, that's what you want to do? Or if you want to do it from a younger element, like, oh, man, the Heat, they should get rid of Bam for Joel Embiid. And I'm like, really? Like, all the memories that Bam has given you and how good he is at defending everybody. Like, I get Joel Embiid's probably a better scorer than Bam. I don't think that's debatable, but Bam is as good a two-way center as there is. Like, you just are kind of rats off a ship always if it's improvement, even if that improvement is slight and one guy hasn't been as far as the other. So with Tua, some of the talks this year with some fans, again, I don't like to wrap and blanket everybody in this, but like people were like, oh, go get Justin Fields. Oh, go get Michael Penix. I'm just like, wait a minute. We've put all this time into tank for Tua, Tua going through the improvement that he has, feeling crushed because he couldn't finish 2 years ago and having to play a playoff game with Skylar Thompson. And yeah, he had big time shortcomings, as the rest of the team did, in games against good teams last year and games against and especially as the month went down, there was a crumbling from the Dolphins for sure. But like, you'd rather roll it all the way back to an unknown commodity or a commodity that's been much more of a wild card than see your guy play it out. I find that fascinating in a lot of ways in sports. It is an interesting one. It is an interesting one to see because I really do want to see. Tua just makes, for me personally, like, I think he's good. I mean, if he stunk, I'm not going to sit here and act like I care about feelings. Like, yeah, there is an element of like, hey, we're selfish sports fans. We want what's best for the team, even if you're a great guy, right? But if you're a great guy and you think you're good and there's just elements and hurdles to leap over, I find it very easy to root for this guy and what he's gone through and the the type of adversity that he's shown himself and ability to get through. And I don't know. I'm very curious. I want to see this through. I'm curious to see this through because for me personally, I've found the Dolphins to be a very entertaining product. For years, they have been a terrible watch. And I do think there are still tweaks, improvements that he can make, tweaks to this roster. I think they can get over the hump. I believe that. I'm not rats off a ship yet. But, say what you will for that. The interesting thing, though, I will say this. Been a lot of debate about this. Tua is going to this camp that is headed by John Beck. And this thing is, what the hell is it called again? It's like 3G Bibidapapoo. I don't know. John Beck has a quarterback camp that a lot of elite guys have gone to. And I think that he confirmed, it's called 3D QB, right? And they have trained the likes of Tom Brady, Lamar Jackson, Drew Brees. And so he said on this, he says, I have many goals. I've hit a couple. They're very specific things. Am I going to share them publicly? Probably not. I want to keep that between myself and John. But I have a non-employed quarterback coach, and I am working with John Beck. And this obviously freaked a lot of Dolphin fans out because John Beck is a Dolphins bust. I actually get the feelings on this because, when you have certain feelings towards a guy and he didn't work out, and John Beck, it wasn't even like this, like he didn't even get a chance to fail, right? Like he just was like, this guy stinks so much. We're not even going to, roll the dice on John Beck and his career and what he's going to turn out to be. This is not one of those things where like we're sitting here and we're hoping that it all works out. Like, nah, you kind of knew right away. John Beck, rats off a ship. That wasn't going to work out. I don't know if he's a nice guy or not. So, yes, I could see the hypocrisy in that old Tobes, but I don't know if he was a nice guy or not because he didn't really even get a chance to have – excuse my phone. He didn't even get a chance to have anybody really sabotage him. They were just like, we're out, dude. So John Beck, doesn't bring out great emotions. But I will say this. Just because a guy wasn't a good player does not mean he can't be a good coach. And obviously, if he has this many guys with resumes wanting to work out with him or his company, I would say that I would take the benefit of the doubt to old John Beck and his 3D QB place and feel pretty good about it. I don't think anybody went to him and be like, hey, did you know that John Beck was terrible as a Miami Dolphin? Like, not even close. Second round pick, they're trying to make him work. Not even a shot. It's like, no, I don't really recall it. Well, he was terrible, dude. John Beck, man. Cam Cameron era. Do you guys see that interview with LT where he was like Cam Cameron through the playoff game to become the Dolphins head coach? Man, that guy was a bum. Speaking of bums, Ryan Fitzpatrick ruined my Masters coverage today with his dumbass green hat. It's Friday. Why do I want to be in a bad mood about it?